Welcome to Code Cradle. Today we are going to learn REST API interview questions. So first one, if you had to scale a Spring Boot application to handle high traffic, what strategies would you use? To scale a Spring Boot application for high traffic, we can add more app instances and use a load balancer to spread out the traffic. Break our app into microservices so each part can be scaled independently. Use cloud services that can automatically adjust resources based on our app's needs. Use caching to store frequently accessed data, reducing the need to fetch it from the database every time. Implement an API gateway to handle requests and take care of things like authentication. Next, imagine your application requires data from an external REST APIs to function. Describe how would you use RestTemplate or WebClient to consume the REST API in your Spring Boot application. In REST API, first I would define a REST template bean in a configuration class using @bean annotation so it can be auto-injected anywhere I need it. Then I would use REST template to make HTTP calls by creating an instance and using methods like getForObject method for a GET request, providing the URL for the external API and class type for the response. When it comes to the web client, I would define a web client bean similarly using a @bean annotation. Then I would use this web client to make asynchronous requests, calling methods like get method, specifying the URL, and then using retrieve to fetch the response. I would also handle the data using methods like body to mono or body to flex depending on if I am expecting single object or a list. Your Spring Boot backend needs to accept cross-origin requests from a specific front-end domain. Explain how would you configure CORS policy in your application. To enable cross-origin requests from a specific domain in a Spring Boot, I would use @cross-origin annotation on my controller like @cross-origin. You can see origins equals to here we are providing the URL. For a global approach, I would configure a web MVC configurer bean overriding the add cost mapping method to apply rules across all controllers using registry.add method with allowed origins. This setup allows my backend to accept requests from designated front-end domain and enhancing security by restricting other cross-origin interactions. Your Spring Boot application is experiencing performance issues under high load. What are the steps would you take to identify the address and performance? First, I would identify the specific performance issues using monitoring tools like Spring Boot Actuator or Splunk. I would also analyze application logs and metrics to spot any patterns or errors, especially under high load. Then I would start a performance test to replicate the issue and use a profiler for code level analysis. After getting findings, I might optimize the database, implement caching, or use scaling options. It's also crucial to continuously monitor the application to prevent future issues. Imagine you need to make a simple web application with Spring Boot that serves a static home page and a dynamic page displaying current server time. Discuss the project structure you would use. I would add main application and a web controller in source main Java directory, and the controller would have mappings for the home page, that is @getMapping annotation, and the server time page should be @getMapping with the URL time. I would add static content like index.html in source main resources static, while dynamic content uses theme leaf template, that is in source main resources templates. Configuration settings would be there in source main resources application.properties. This setup efficiently organizes static and dynamic resources and ensuring clear separation and easy management of web content. Your application behaves differently in development and production environment. How would you use a Spring profiles to manage these differences? To handle differences between development and production environment, I would use a Spring profiles. By defining Spring profiles, so here we can see environment specific configurations in application dev properties for development and application properties for production. I can easily switch behaviors based on active profiles. Activating these profiles is simple, either by setting the profiles.active property using a command line arguments or through an environment variable. Additionally, with the @profile annotation, I would selectively load certain beans or configurations according to the current environment and ensuring that my application adapts seamlessly to both development and production settings.